Well, hello everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Tea with G. Well, you were asked to throw out some things for me to just start talking about, and you have not disappointed. You have definitely led me into some spaces I wasn't thinking about. And oftentimes when I'm just setting up the broadcast, which I do like maybe at most 2 hours ahead of time. Usually it's around 1, and sometimes it's like 5 minutes before. But usually as I'm doing that, some kind of title comes to mind. When it doesn't, then I say, okay, well, we'll wait for whatever unfolds. But this time I was inspired to have someone post this up for me, to ask for what's on your hearts, what's on your minds. I mean, that's what satsang is about. It's very immediate. It's very spontaneous. It's not a planned discourse. It's not anything written out in advance. It's very much meant to be in the present moment, responding to the needs and pains, really, of anybody who happens to be participating, so that suffering can become less, because that's the whole point of this, the end of suffering, which means finding the cause of suffering, because you can't end suffering until you know what its cause is. But I won't go off on that, because we have some really great questions in the link in the chat here. So I'm going to dive right into those, as I say hello to everyone, Merck and Enlightened World Network, and Robbie, and Mary, and Rosario. So Mary asks, what is the truest question one can ask themselves without bringing answers from the past to sedate them back into forgetfulness? Besides that question, what am I? Well, that's one of the deepest questions you can ask. Why am I here? Who am I? What's this about? What's the truth? What's the truth of my life? What's the truth about experience? What's the truth about the universe? What's the truth about God? Because, I mean, that's what we want to know, right? Because the truth is the end of the line. It's the final word. When you have the truth of something, you have it at its core, at its essence. So this desire for truth is the most precious thing that we can engage in. It is really what gives human life its meaning and its purpose, to discover the truth of our own being. Now, there's no question we can pose that our mind is not going to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not going to jump in and try to commandeer the vehicle. I mean, the mind, remember our minds, that is the psychological processing. I'm not talking about the capital M1 mind that you hear about in Buddhism and in certain metaphysical traditions. I'm talking about our psychological mind. I'm talking about our repetitive thinking. I'm talking about the function of mind as just, part of the whole safety mechanism, the whole part of, of instinctual life. And its function in that is as a storyteller. It makes stuff up. It wants explanations of things. And it doesn't do this because it's bad or misbehaved. It does this because that's its nature. I refer to it as the third chakra, the sense of identity. I call it the storyteller mind. And it is this capacity we all have, and this need to have a coherent explanation of life. The thing about this as a process, an instinctual process of the body-mind complex, is that it can't deal with anything other than what's inside of it. It can only deal with knowledge. It relies on something outside of it to give it its feed, so that it has something to work with. So it's a process of working with it. The mind itself can't possibly know the truth, but the moment I seek the truth, the mind's go, oh, okay, and it's on the job, and it's going to be dredging up stuff from the past, and it's going to look at belief system and listen to teachers and check out this and check out that, and do its very best to come up with a story that makes sense. The way to keep yourself from getting sedated into that is to recognize the nature of mind, that it's a natural phenomena, it's not a mistake, and it's not a problem, but it cannot possibly reveal the truth. Once the truth is known, that truth can then use the mind as the means of expression of it. It'll make use of all the information you have, your facility with words or with any kind of sound or writing or just kind gestures, however it is, that whatever you have available to yourself as the skillful means of it that any human being acquires, now gets used by the truth to express itself. Whereas the mind is not capable of knowing what that truth is. If you understand that, you will immediately start turning away from the mind as a source of truth, recognizing thoughts about truth as not the truth, and instead look for where you find the truth. And where you find the truth is in not thoughts about anything, but about the actual experience of things. Most importantly, the experience of yourself. This is the whole point of meditation. Withdrawing into yourself, usually starting with the breath, going into feelings and emotions and the like, and stepping further and further back until there's just this incredible, quiet, still sense of being. Recognizing that that is the source of everything, life, functioning, the mind, the universe, everything has arisen out of that. You're now in the presence of truth. But at this point, the truth is not an abstraction. It is your very being. You and the truth are one. Remember, truth means to be. It is the I am. It's that which is. It is the nature of reality itself. So it is a redefinition of the relationship that then doesn't allow you any longer. There's no hooks left. There's nothing left to pull you back into that kind of relationship where you are relying on the mind, which can only rely on external information, stuff that it has acquired, knowledge and experiences and memories and all of that. But it's not capable of actually bringing fresh light to them. That has to come from a different place, a higher intelligence and a more loving intelligence. So does that answer the question? I think I got to both of them, how to set that aside and also what you are. Right? The truth of you is the very simple fact of your existence. Self-aware existence is the truth. What else could it be? Truth can't be an abstraction. It must be living. And who's living? You are. So it's only the thoughts about you that need to be let go of, not believed. The mind will persist in those thoughts because that's all it has. Right? But the moment you go, oh, that's not actually me, that's just thoughts. They're just habits. They're there again. And this is not an entity out to get me. It's not something that can mess up my life. This is just the functioning of life that I've mistaken for an entity. There's nobody here but me. So, does that do it for you, Mary? Does that help? If not, I know you'll tell me, and I'll pick it up again. Non-duality says, hey, GP, I would love value some input on disengaging from the ego voice of self-hatred. Listened to your talk on regarding it as a robot, which helped to loosen my perception somewhat. Well, this is actually related to the one from David and Elaine saying, love and greetings from the both of them. Subject, what about identifying and working with subtle levels of identification, which with the separate self separate self post-awakening? And then non-duality said, love this, may cover some of what I was asking about. So I'll just kind of pick it up and try to go through the whole a lot. The ego voice is simply the thoughts of I. And if we remember that the ego, first off, is nothing but a thought. That's why I use that example of the robot, because when you're talking to your phone, you ask Siri a question, she'll say, I'm sorry, I don't know. Right? It's the reference is first person, but there's nobody there actually saying it. It's just the sound I, right? Which to the computer that is generating the pre-recorded voice saying that I, right? It has no sense of it. It is non-sentient. It is not self-aware. Right? That's why artificial intelligence should be called simulated intelligence. It's never going to become self-aware. Although many people are going to believe that it is, it will never be sentient because it is nothing but a combination of elements imitating it. Okay. But I digress. If you recognize that, then you recognize that that voice in your head that we call the ego is not an entity. It is just patterns of thought that have become automatic and therefore repetitive. And the way to disengage with them, the only way to disengage with them, and I'm glad you used the word disengage rather than get rid of, because if it's get rid of, you start a fight with it. It's a fight you can't win because you're basically going fisticuffs with smoke, right? There's nothing there. But thinking we have to get rid of it turns it into an entity that then somehow I've got to dispose of in some way. And I now have made it an entity. I'm engaging with it as if it were an entity when there's nothing there. It is Siri. It is the robot. It is a bunch of patterns of reactions. That's all there is to the ego. So seeing that, you realize you're not dealing with anything at all except habits of thought that have simply not been scrutinized to see that that's all they are. The power that they possess is that for the longest time, when you heard those thoughts, I saying, I hate myself, I hate others, I hate my life, right? I reject my life. I am not good enough. You, who is an actual self-aware entity, mistook that I for you. The ego can get into, that is, patterns of thought can form around this belief that I'm not enough, that I'm inadequate in so many different ways. And it merely starts as means of, let's see if I can put this the right way. First off, it's not you. You mistook it for you. But you mistook it for you before you awoke enough to realize that it isn't you. Now that you have, it feels like it's difficult to get rid of. But if anybody who's ever wrestled with any habit knows, yeah, it's a bit difficult to get rid of it. But with conviction and persistence, it gets less and less. Now, I think it's worthwhile to ask, where did that come from? Who would choose self-hatred as a way of thinking to themselves? Who would self-sabotage? Who would cut themselves off from love and friendship or success or prosperity? Who would do that? Nobody would do that. So where in the world did it come from? These kinds of self-debilitating, self-restricting thoughts were there in order to restrict you. Not because there's something really wrong with you, not because what was restricting you was trying to always make you be less than, not successful, struggling. But it was trying to restrict you from revealing to the environment who you really were. Because as a child, when you do that, this is who I really am, and it contradicts the morals or the axioms or the beliefs or the modes of acceptable behavior of the environment in which you are growing up, you will get punished. There'll be a pushback. There'll be a sense of diminishment. There'll be a fear that I'm going to be thrown out of the tribe and thus be left vulnerable, which you are. The child is completely vulnerable, powerless. And so the nervous system, because there's no real self-awareness yet, the nervous system is jumping in and restricting your behaviors to make sure that only those behaviors that get rewards from the environment are allowed to have free reign. Some of those will be whatever little part of the authentic you is allowable. But the majority will be false versions of you, false behavior that aren't natural to you, that get implemented as automatic behavior because they're the ones that get back the rewards. You get your needs met, you get the whatever it is you need on the most fundamental level. You remain safe. And for most of us, what happens is we then begin to associate love with safety. I'm safe, that's okay then, right? When in fact, what we're really craving is love. And by that, I mean the love of self-appreciation, know who I really am. And the way it very effectively keeps us from expressing who we are is through creating these patterns of self-rejection, self-hatred. I'm not good enough. Right? All of these are ways in which it really solidifies a wall in between the environment we're in and our own natural inclinations and preferences and loves, because those get us into trouble. And long after we've outgrown and are no longer in the environment where those behaviors are needed, nonetheless, that wall remains. That's what needs to be dismantled. And the glue that holds that wall together is what we call the ego. So the ego has a picture of you still as vulnerable and weak and incapable. And so it's forever going to just keep going, saying the self-hating thing, it's going to want to put you in conditions and circumstances and relationships that are going to recreate the ones in which that strategy was effective. But with awakening, we become aware of it. And so now you can look at the self-hating thought, which you wouldn't have paid any attention to. You have just joined in the party of self-hatred in a way. Wow, what's with this? And of course, there's an urge to get rid of it. So if we step back and see it for what it actually is, the protective mechanism that was buffering you against an environment that was hostile, in which it was not safe, it's pretty self-evident that the way to undo that programming is to create an environment that is safe, which means you begin to listen to your own feelings, your own body. You begin to listen to those thoughts without agreeing with them. You drop the fight with all of it. And you begin to inhabit this place I like to call the peacemaker. It's where you're just looking upon your entire experience with a loving awareness. This is nothing but the nervous system that has gotten programmed by the environment and by its own nature in order to keep me safe. I've got nothing against somebody keeping me safe. We just need to do it a little bit differently. That's why I've also often used the metaphor of a rescue dog. You've got this dog, rescue dog inside of you, this animal nature that has completely locked itself into a behavior, snapping at everybody to make sure that it stays safe. And how it snaps with you is go, not enough, I'm stupid, I hate myself, I wish I was somebody else. Right? It keeps you in that. And you go, oh, okay, that's the strategy it used to keep me safe. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Great, it worked. Brilliant strategy. I didn't know any better. but now I do. So let's start working together. Notice how, just the way I'm talking now, it's like the rescue dog. I mean, I understand why you're like this, and I understand why you needed to be like this. So my job is to give you so much love and so much appreciation that you sense deep in your bones that you don't need that behavior anymore. I'm not a threat. You don't need to protect yourself from me. And as that begins to sink in, this is what I call the yoga of allowing. This is inner reconciliation, where you are reconciling with these inner energies rather than fighting with them. And little by little, the voice of the self-hating ego will become transformed into your own inner cheerleading squad. That which has been so trying to protect you by restricting you from things will protect you while you are growing and expanding into things. So now let me see if, well, and as you can see, as David and Elaine point out, this is not an overnight thing. You've literally got a lifetime of these things compounding. Even Nisargadatta, the fully enlightened master, made the comment late in his life. He says, my only obstacle is 81 years of accumulated experience. Oh. Now, if it comes from somebody, a statement that comes from somebody like that, of that caliber, then you have to kind of go, okay, I get it. I get it. For me, 71 years of accumulated experience of these various kinds of habits and stuff, and all the interaction. And remember, this system is still active. Its job is still, and will be until the day it dissolves, will be to keep you safe and functional within the environment. Now, the more love we give it, the more loving awareness and attention we give it, the more it will be finding loving ways of doing that, freeing ways of doing that, rather than restricting, because it won't be as burdened anymore, because it can't see anything other than that. You can. So it will get increasingly subtle, more and more subtle ways in which you find this energy is active. And remember, it's mentioned in the Hindu scriptures as vasanas, which are energies that are so subtle, they go from lifetime to lifetime undetected. In Buddhism, they refer to it as the repository consciousness or the storehouse consciousness. It's really kind of the same thing. You water that down and you get things like Akashic records and the like, this place where everything appears to be recorded, the book of life, right, in the in the Bible. But what it is are very, very subtle patterns, down to the most subtle, which is I am. Even the I am itself, as Nisargadatta beautifully pointed out, is that kind of an energy. The absolute and the I am are one. The I am is the manifestation of the absolute, which is beyond all manifestation. We can't even talk about it. We call it the absolute. For what does that mean? Well, it's inconceivable. It's ineffable. It's unknowable. It just is, because it is what gives everything its potential to be at all. And the first thing that appears is the sense of I am. And so that very first sense of I am, regarded as an entity in and of itself rather than the first phenomena, right? I am, or Om, the very first phenomena arising out of it is the subtlest energy of all. And so the important thing for you guys, for David and Elaine, because I know you're more advanced seekers, is that the levels of identification are all happening still within the context of the manifest form. And I'm going to talk about the nervous system, because that's actually up a couple levels. The sense of identification is there long before it forms into a body. Right? It's there in between every life, between your previous death and the next life, because if it wasn't, there would be no next life. It is what needs this form of expression, or it's not quite like that, but I'm going to leave it at that for right this moment. So if you can see that all identification is being witnessed by you, you can let go of the idea that you somehow need to sort out all the identifications. You don't. The sense of identification is being witnessed like everything else. And it has a certain karmic energy to it. It has a certain kind of momentum to it. And as long as you don't think it's something that you have to do something about, eventually all of that momentum will just fizzle. There'll be nothing left. It's nirvana, which means, the flame burns out because it runs out of fuel. So even in the subtle way is thinking that somehow I'm identified, and even if that's not there, that identification is something I have to do about it. That I is the only thing you have to worry about. That I doesn't exist. It is a very, very subtle energy. Matter of fact, as you can see, it's so subtle, it's there even without the word I. Even the word I could not arise if it was not there. And so remember, there's no entity that's in a state of post-awakening, as there was no entity that went through the awakening. All of that is playing out here on the screen. And you have always been the pure absolute watching the show. You've never been anything else. And that absolute we can also call love. Pure, inexhaustible love. Let's see. I love being able to talk at this level. It's not easy to articulate. And not everybody's ready to hear it. But I'm always pointing to this place that is, remember, I pointed out, it's the storyteller mind. It's a function of life. It's not you. This is what life needs in order for there to be a manifest life. But everything is phenomenal. Everything is a manifestation of something else. That something else is unmanifest. It is unknowable. But it doesn't identify with. It generates countless numbers of what we would call identities, forms, expressions, images of itself. But it's never identified with any of them. The identification happens within the context itself, because without that, everybody would be schizophrenic. There'd be no sense of self at all, right? So the expression of the absolute oneness and inviolate nature of the one manifests as individual, what appear to be entities, but the entity that they appear to possess is but the reflection of the actual entity of the self. So the self, which is boundless, which is also called no self, because it's not an entity in that sense, manifests itself as the appearance of selves. So every individual has an individualized being. I mean, it's so subtle. The infinite, no self. Infinite means it has no boundaries, no limits, no definition. You cannot point to anything and say that is it. Right? Manifests itself as individual forms. Because if it couldn't, then there'd be no form at all. It would remain unmanifest. And so its oneness, its singularity, manifests itself as ones and beings and singularities and individualities, right? That in them of themselves have no limitations. And so being manifests as beings. The self manifests as selfness. And so you can have the the infinite combination of infinite individualized manifestations that makes for an infinite recombination of those entities, of those non-entities that appear to be entities, which gives infinite flavor and variety. Like, all the colors of the rainbow, right? All the different frequencies of light, put them together. There's no limit on the different combinations you can make, which gives rise to art. And so what we're looking at is the being that gives rise to all of it, not just color, but sound and music and laughter and dance and words and all of this. Oh, I could get completely lost in this. So I hope that I hope that covered it, and I didn't leave anybody behind on that. If I did, just take it like this: you are so much more than you think you are. Right now, your individual human life, which you might think, it's terrible, I've got to get over that, I've got to get to nirvana, I've got to become enlightened, I got to wake up. No. The life you have right this very moment is the one, the ultimate, the Shiva Shakti manifesting itself as you. You are that right now. You've never been a separate entity. And the love that this infinite love has for herself is the love that is reflected as you. It is her love of herself. That is why creation happens. It's not an act of accident. It's an act of infinite self-love and power. I think I'll leave it at that. Sip on my tea, which I've barely touched because of you guys. Oh, wow. I'm just kind of looking them over here. Really nice, deep questions. Thank you. Everybody take a sip on the tea. Taking that last little bit. Oh, if you only knew who you were. You are just one of the many masks that God wears. As am I. Scott, question. Blockages are clearing and popping up less often. I have a greater clarity of a programmed conceptual layer. Even my fear of death is greatly diminished. Wonderful. I'm finding an internal calm, but too calm? There seems to be a slight indifference, a lack of drive. It seems the fears had a purpose, driving a certain zest in life. So now what? I seem to be lost in a gap between dissolving conceptual knowledge and a realizing a deeper connected reality. Dark night? Dark night? I need direction. Well, first off, what a beautiful place to be at. Yeah, the ego requires external stimulus to make it do anything. It's either craving after something or it's fearfully running away from something, because that's its motivation, right? If you look at it, not so much as the ego of a human being, but look at it as just the instincts of any animal in the wild. They go out looking for food every day, right? And avoiding themselves becoming food. It's very primitive, right? And because it's more important for us to not get eaten than for us to eat, emphasis is placed on that. So there's always a monitoring of the environment for potential danger. When it's safe, they're going out for food, and then periodically, in some animals more than others, we now need to mate. So we need to make little versions of ourselves, and that's it. That's what motivates the animal instinct, which is the basis of our human existence. And for most, the ego, that sense of self, developed as just a higher capacity, but still completely enmeshed in these basic drives. So the ego became just a more sophisticated way of avoiding getting eaten, finding food to eat, and getting a mate, right? And we got really good at it. Dating and Match.com and all sorts of stuff. But somewhere along the line, there's something bigger emerged, which does emerge in a lot of the higher animals. Dogs and cats and dolphins and the like. A lot of love. Elephants full of love. You can feel there's a whole different level. There's kind of a heart opening there, even though they have not developed the sense of self that we have. That's kind of our gift. So as you awaken, there will be a greater and greater sense of clarity. What will also happen is, as the egoic impulse, the ego is seen through, and more of the real you begins to appear. The old drives, as you said, the fear is less, and there's this greater clarity. So the fear is no longer the number one thing driving the system, nor is it just the drive to survive. Get food. In our modern world, it means have a job and an income and all sorts of that, or to just reproduce. Find a mate, get on Tinder or whatever. Those begin to diminish because that sense of self is diminishing. And at first it is very confusing to a lot of people. But let me assure you that the entire time that this mechanism of survival has been dominant, there's also been in you a sense of your own interests, your own preferences, the things that turn you on, the things that you like. Now, they may have been very suppressed if you were in an environment that did not approve of whatever it was you happened to like, but you can't get rid of it. I mean, you look at a little kid, they just reach for what they want, period, right? If they can't get it, they get very angry about it. There's a socialization process that has to take place. Without inhibiting them too much, but you can see there's an immediate sense of what pleases them, right? And this is not just pleasure, this is self-expression. And a lot of that gets shut down in us in adults, and we do live in a culture that does not appreciate individuality. It wants to turn people into lemmings. So if you just stay with that calm, as Nisargadatta beautifully said, don't get bored with peace. Just stay with that calm and use it as an opportunity to explore and go, well, what do I really like to do? For no other reason than I like to do it. It's not attached to survival or finding a mate or avoiding danger or doing what I'm supposed to do. Okay, I've got to do those things. I've got a job, take care of stuff. But what do I care about? What would I do if I didn't have any need to do any of that? Or what would I do even if I did, but I do it just because I love it? It becomes a space for you to begin to explore not just the big ideas, the big insights like enlightenment and that sort of thing, but also to explore the value and purpose of this individual manifestation of the whole. The divine brilliance, the divine infinitude manifested as you. You're not a joke. You're not an accident. You're not you weren't just a roll of the genetic dice. The creator of the universe saw it fit for you to be a part of this at this time and in this place. And so while you are simultaneously both the creator, that essence, that oneness, that singularity, it is looking upon itself as you, through you, to know itself, which means every single impulse and thought and interest and concern is valuable. It's important. It's significant. There's an importance to Scott Wendell not just to the absolute or what Scott Wendell knows or can do or is, has skills that have been accumulated over time. There's something about you, your unique individuality. And that is what these moments are here to begin to cherish. The spiritual journey is both a discovery of the value of the particular form and as well as the discovering of the universal, unknowable presence from which all form emerges, because you cannot separate the two. The form cannot exist without its essence. The essence wouldn't be what it is were it not for the forms that spontaneously arise from it. As that beautiful line from the Upanishads, all creation is myself, for it has all come forth from me. This is the intimate relationship between the form and the essence of the form. That's why the goddess mother love, Kuan Yin, is such a powerful image. And it is in Hindu regarded as that feminine principle, the total mystery of the womb from which all life comes, is the metaphor for the love that gave rise to you. The absolute is empty of particulars, but its nature is just infinite, indissoluble love and bliss and appreciation and kindness. And its very nature requires it, if I can use the expression, to yearn for self-expression. That yearning, because it also has the infinite power to do it, is forever fulfilled. And this is the bliss of eternal being. And it is this bliss that gave rise to you, not just the bliss your parents felt, although I hope it was good. But that is just a hint at the infinite bliss from which we have all emerged, the true heaven. And we're kind of heaven on earth. So does that help? The zest for life will come back, but it won't be the same. It will not be pushed. It will not be urgent. It will not be something that is a feeling of a necessity about it. It'll be a sense of inevitability. Just a sense of being in the flow of the Tao and allowing this particular body-mind flow to flow with it until it dissolves back into the whole, and then anywhere along the line you can realize that you are the whole witnessing this flow, and this particular flow is called GP. That one's called Scott. We got a bunch of different ones here. Does that answer it for you, Scott? Beautiful. It's a great place to be, my friend. It displays, while it feels very uncomfortable because it is such a transition from the way you've used to be living, it is the sign of spiritual maturity, called and chosen. Karen, hello, Karen. Thank you. Maria Dodds, hello. David and Elaine, where'd you go? Many thanks, G. Loved your answer. Articulated beautifully. Nisargadatta said the only way to know the absolute is to be the absolute. So is consciousness the firstborn of the absolute, and the I am the offspring of consciousness, or this just semantics? Well, it is semantic. It's all semantics, right? Because ultimately there's only the absolute. And even our words consciousness, absolute, all of those just disappear into the indescribable unity of being, where, you look at the computer you're looking at me on, and it's you. It's the computer but there's no need for an and or a many anymore. But when it's being articulated, when it's being taught, and Nisargadatta drew a distinction between the absolute and consciousness. He would use consciousness in a lot of the ways that I would use mind. or teachers now would use the word mind. So we talk about pure consciousness, and that would be pure awareness, and then that'd be the absolute. But that's the problem with words, is because you have to constantly redefine them, because they're a moving target. And so the only way to know the absolute is as the absolute. Only God can know God. So if you want to know God, you have to be God, right? And that's reasonable, right? Oh, and then the question, well, how do I be God? Well, you can't become God. You have to realize you already are, right? And then know what the word God means, because in this culture, God, it refers to the ultimate other, the supreme being who created you as a separate entity. That isn't the view in the East, and certainly not in the non-dual traditions of the East. As I said, as I quoted in the Upanishad, this is myself, it is all proceeded forth from me. There's the immanence that God made the universe out of herself. So the substance out of which everything is made is that God. So, but then you realize, well, how does God create? Is God a creator like Yahweh, where he sits up there and he's got this substance, right? Wherever that came from, God created out of nothing, or there was this other substance called matter that was self-existent and coexistent with God. So now we got two gods, right? But then this other God, and it was an intelligent one, and he could mold that into the universe and stars and all of that, and then eventually you, and breathe into you the breath of life and all, and all of that. How does God create? Where does creation come from? The infinite empty self. Well, it has to come out of the nature of it itself. And it can only make things out of itself, because it's all that exists. So the substance of everything must be that substance of the absolute. So in that sense, you could see the nature of the absolute is like, it generates within itself a modulation, a vibration, right? That is made of itself and is undulating through the medium of itself. And we could call that Om, we could call that consciousness, we could call that and it's even prior to the I am, right? And there's a sense of self that is there, right? That itself is witnessed by something else, right? Which must be the absolute, because that's as far as you can go. That sense of self gives rise to Om, I am. And then that I am is what? I am all of it, right? So it's not an individual I am. It is the theme I am play everywhere. This microphone right here, right? The bug that was crawling in my kitchen earlier, the plants behind me. I am this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. And then the illusion happens, samsara happens, when the I am confines itself to the form, rather than the I am as one instance of the infinite I am, right? Which is the Shiva and Shakti, right? Shiva being the pure sense of being, Shakti being the I am. That is the energy of the pure knowing, and the manifestation of that is the universe. That's what Shiva and Shakti represent. But both of those arise out of that, the emptiness. There's a wonderful story of the two Hindu gods who are walking along. There's Vada, which is the god of wind, and Agni, which is the god of fire. And they're walking down the way, and a little bit away from them, this very strange, misty, mysterious, dark thing is in the road. He said, well, this is very strange. I'm going to go check it out. And first, Agni goes up, the god of fire, and he says, well, who are you? And this amorphous thing goes back and says, who are you? He says, I'm Agni, I'm god of fire. Okay. And out of this amorphous mystery flows this a piece of straw. He says, burn that. Agni throws a fire. It's completely unmoved, untouched. Doesn't even smell. Not even any smoke. Nothing. Agni's Oh, this is very strange. He walks back to Vada and tells him, well, let me try. And he goes up. And he says the same thing. He said, well, who are you? And he says, I'm Vada. I'm the god of Wunsch. Ah, okay, well, good. Here, blow this around. And out comes a feather, just kind of sitting there. Hurricane force winds. The feather doesn't move. They all both walk back to him. Well, this is very confusing. I've never seen anything like this. And then a goddess appears to the both of them. He says, oh, boys. Don't you know? That is the mystery. And she created you. It's such a beautiful story that points to even the gods arose from this mysterious womb of being. In the Heart Sutra, they even refer to it as the womb of all Buddhas. It is the unknowable, completely beyond. But the knowing of it is the joy of it. And in the knowing of it, you have the I Am, the universe, everything in it, and of course you. Bring it home. It's the big universe other. It's you. It's the precious, lovable, deeply significant, one of a kind, unique in all time of space and space, you. Scott says, so explore the calm, internal purpose in it. Yeah, I guess I was surprised. Most of what drove me up to this point was my mind. Now what's left is a calm and empty. So explore. Yeah. I have a safe. I keep my money and I open it every day. Yesterday I was opening it. I forgot the combination. I said, all sorts of traumatic memories came up. I echo Dave's feelings about finding purpose when asking the question, what do I really like to do? Isn't it technically still a part of the ego or brain, though? Is we are only pure awareness? It was as if a part of me said, no, you're dealing with this right now, which has no preference. Open the safe. Later, this is more important. Apologies, I'm at Scott's feelings. Dale, no, it's not. The ego isn't a thing. It doesn't have preferences. It's a reactive mechanism. Right? Siri doesn't have an opinion. She mouths opinions that have been programmed into her. Do you get that? So our preferences are inherent into us. They're as natural as it's like saying, is the color of my hair my ego? Right? Is the fact that I'm male or female, is that my ego? Or my eye color, how tall I am? The ego owns nothing. It is the circus clown that comes out and bows and takes the bows for the acrobats. So your preferences are innocent, which is why I say explore them, because they are the preferences of the divine that is manifesting as you. It is the direction for this particular form. Our job is to simply purify these desires and preferences. So those preferences are seeking less and less to serve the interests of mere survival and the unconsciousness of the instinctual system, and are more and more gravitating into the higher realms, where they become the very living presence and motivation and action of the self. And you'll see that your preferences and God's preferences are one and the same. You're not the personal author of them any more than you're the author of this body, or the color of your hair, or the digesting of your food, or the beating of your heart. They're integral to you, which is why they're worth exploring. And when you get in touch, oh man, I really liked doing that. Why? Because I just liked it. You are communing with God. That connection you feel, that oneness with it, that rightness about it, is your connection to truth. That is the truth of being manifested as a particular form. I'm always bringing the form back into the bosom of God, into that love which gives rise to it. So your desires are not, as a lot of religious practices, to get rid of them. They're terrible. God hates them. No, those are God's desires made manifest. But God's desires are not like, I got to survive or something like that. They're not even desires, because obviously for God, every desire is automatically fulfilled. It is the cycle of creation, Shiva and Shakti. the masculine and the feminine, the wheel of time, which unfolds as your personal life. And the one that enjoys that personal life is not a person. It's not the you think you are. That's the ego thing. Oh, am I enjoying it? No. Consciousness is enjoying it, which is God, which is the self, which is the knower of all things. And so your enjoyment is the enjoyment of the one and the same. And eventually Scott disappears and all there is, and as does Dale and David and me and everybody else, because all there is this one. That's all there is. The self, the ego that has to get rid of preferences or could create a preference doesn't exist. Nothing belongs to the ego. Nothing belongs to Siri. Wonderful. Wonderful. Toby. Hi, Toby. Or Tabby. Hi, my 12-year-old daughter said that I don't believe in God as it does not have a scientific evidence. I'm practicing Muslim and I'm concerned about her. I'm living in society where people are quick to declare each other infidel. What do you suggest? Well, how to release negative emotions like hatred, revenge instantly. Any practice you suggest. I'm passing through worst financial crisis, rich are getting richer, financial challenges for working class have been increased. Financial uncertainty creates fear. I observe it dissolve, but then comes back. I'm feeling moving in a spiral. Is there any way to move out of this orbit in this life experience like this? Who wants to know? Who am I? You want to know, and to come to the answer to that question is the purpose that you're here. As far as your daughter is concerned, what I would say first is, you know what? The God you don't believe in, I don't believe in either. It can't be just this man in the sky doling out rules, holding us accountable to everything, making us act, telling us our own human nature is somehow sinful or bad. No, I don't believe in that either. Right? So why don't we explore together and find out first if there is a God, and if there is, what would that be like? The personal God, I agree with you, but then you can tell her, look, you got to be careful. It's like when my son has heard my almost 7-year-old granddaughter come up with a word that should not be used in public by a 7-year-old. His statement is very simple. It's okay. It's just a word. I don't care. But people will judge you. So be wise about what you say to whom when. And that's what I tell her. You know, you have to recognize that there's a lot of people who think that's a horrible thing, that you would even think that, and will want to hurt you because of it, or at least shame you, judge you. And there's no need for you to get into a fight about it. Right? And I'm not telling you to be a coward, and I'm not telling you to just hide who you are, but be wise, because people don't swim with the sharks. They can't see any further. And let's explore this together, because I want to know who God is. And since you're a Muslim, I don't know what particular branch of it you're in, but I love the teachings of Sufi, Balyani. There's a few others. Balyani's Know Thyself is incredible, just incredible. He was the whole Sufi mysticism had a golden era, like the 12th, 13th century. And it was really quite influential. There's a lot of mystics at that time. Rumi, Rumi is about at that time, which everybody knows. But there was another one, I can't even, Hafiz. There's some others that I can't remember right now. But if you look those up, you might find a completely different way of engaging with her in a conversation about it. No, there's no scientific evidence for it. But guess what? There's no scientific evidence for consciousness. Right? The very fact that you and I are self-aware, that we can find the images, stuff going on in the brain, the neocortex. We can find the image, the visual cortex, where images are put together, but nobody's found that which is aware, that's looking at the image that's going through your brain. Can also talk with her about the fellow, Dr. Eben Alexander, who had the near-death experience when his neocortex was completely destroyed, and he was not capable of having any experience whatsoever. He should have been a blank, a vegetable. And in fact, he had this incredible experience. And the neocortex grew back. First time, it's this miraculous event. These are the things that can open her up, because I agree with her. The God she is dismissing, I dismissed a long time ago. No, I could do a better job, right? I'm less judgmental. I mean, God's got to be at least as good as me. Right? Otherwise, why in the world would I bother worshiping you? Come on, show me something here, right? Parting a sea, great. A magic trick. You get David Copperfield or one of these guys, or Penn and Teller to do it, or figure out how you did it. That's not the real stuff. Right? But there's so many mysteries in life that materialism claims to have figured out. In fact, it hasn't. That can kind of open her up, I think, to allow her to explore this freely without bringing on herself pain she doesn't need. She can do it in public until such time there's a right time for folks to speak out. And if you look at the history, well, Sufism, it's not like it used to be. In Christianity, though, the Christian mystics, for the most part, they were put to death. So it's the kind of thing that, this is territory that needs to be explored. I'm happy that she wants to explore that. If she even wants to explore it through science, but just don't take science as if it has all the answers, because it doesn't. Right? And in fact, look, you've never seen a molecule. You've never seen an atom. You've never seen the quantum field. They're beyond what we can perceive. We have mathematical models. What we're looking at is something's happening, and so something must be there causing it, and we're inferring from what information we do have what that might be. That's all there is to science. It doesn't say this exists. As a matter of fact, you talk to quantum people, it doesn't exist. It comes in and out of existence, right? I think it was Niels Bohr made the famous statement that which we consider real is made of that which cannot possibly be thought of as real. What do you do with that? If you see that science is a desire to explain things, but it has a particular way of approaching it, then spirituality, mysticism, non-duality is an equally valid way of trying to explain exactly the same phenomena. It just does it from the standpoint of consciousness rather than the standpoint of a material structure. So in terms of your second part of the question, this case, rich getting richer, poor getting poor, it's everywhere. I mean, it's horrible here in the United States. It's worse than the Gilded Age, right? And almost getting to the point where it's being institutionalized as law. So this is happening universally. It's part of the process that the earth has to go through to wake up. So the way to move out of the orbit is to move into an internal orbit of self-acceptance and love. For me, it's about love. And the more I can take every single moment that happens to me, and I can turn it into an opportunity, into a question for myself. And that is, I have a choice in this moment to either close my heart off to something, protect myself, or to open my heart to something I've not opened it up to before. And my way of living my life now is to always choose the latter. Right? I can feel myself wanting to protect, move back, move away, push away. And I look at that and I embrace it. That's part of the human mechanism. And I go, do I really need to do that? And even if I do, if there is somebody or something I need to protect myself, can I can I do that and still remain open to the love of it, to the understanding of, to allowing it to be what it is, without having to judge it or condemn it or mistreat it in any way? Can I still love it? And the answer is yes, I can. Finding ways to love the people who who want more and more and want to give less and less. How do we open up to people who are stuck in that level of greed, that they cannot see their own pain or the pain they create for others? That's somebody worthy of my pity, not my condemnation. But this is how we can do this. And this starts first by turning your attention to yourself and all those parts of you that you've rejected, and embracing our own vulnerability and powerlessness. Because those of us who are on the other side of the coin, right? We don't really have any power. We don't have any power over the system. So I have to find a different power here. And for me, that power is simply love. And it starts with loving myself, loving your daughter, loving the fact that she's willing to reject it. Oh, bless her heart. But then taking the opportunity to see if she's open to finding to not just get started. This has got the answers. Yeah, it can't explain it, right? Does that mean there's not an absolute? Are there other ways of looking? This is the openness that really does characterize the true scientist. It isn't an ideology. It isn't a preconceived notion. Right? It is an openness saying, you know what, we don't know. Right? What we have so far, this is the evidence. This is the behavior the universe consistently does. And out of that, we're inferring what it might actually be. I love Rupert Sheldrake, who says it's not laws. These are habits. They're just the way it happens to be going and stayed in this pattern for, I don't know, several billion years, right? It doesn't have to be that way. We don't know. Everything changes and morphs and transforms individually and cosmically. So love, that's always my final answer. Can you find a way to love yourself more? To come to understand yourself, the body, the human mechanism, understand why people become so rigorous, they become so dogmatic in their beliefs. They feel unsafe, unloved. They cling to it like, you know, who's going to get me? I've got to believe this. And a bunch of people get together and believe it, and then they make enemies of those who don't. So you recognize that's who they are, and you deal with them on that level, and you only show as much as you can show to them, to the degree that they're open to a higher level of inquiry. And I guess I'll leave it at that. But I hope that's comforting to you, Tabby, and to your daughter. Love you to bring her to satsang. Tabby, I think. Bring her to Tea with G. I'd love to talk to her. Karen says, love the Siri references. Great. Me too. I started using that because everybody has Siri or whatever the equivalent is on Android, and it's got Alexa and Echo on for Amazon, and it's got Google. You just call Google, but I can go, hey Siri, give me directions home. Working on it. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny, really. Just one more thing for you, Tabby. Who am I? You are that love. You're not just somebody who loves. You are the very presence of love itself. And that's a nice way to look at oneself. Dale, thanks, GP. I guess a good example is watching actors in a movie. You tune into the movie because it interests you, but the character's not you or even sentient. Correct. The story's all in your own head, right? Isn't that amazing? It's just a series of images. That's what your life is, a series of images that the storyteller mind creates a story about, and you call it my life. It's just a series of instances, of frames going by in the movie. And have you noticed that your explanation of your life has changed over time? Memories are always, history is always revisionist. We're always looking back, oh, that's what it really was. It wasn't like that. It was, oh, this was what it was. And then 10 years later, oh, it wasn't that either. It was this. And even 10 minutes later, right? Because memories are totally, we don't actually remember all the events. We remember fragments. And then the story is instantly put together by the storyteller mind at the moment we remember it, and it then paints it with your current context of what's going on now. And so it now looks at your past through this lens. We have no idea what our past was actually like. The only thing we can tell is we have certain impulses, certain actions, certain behaviors that arise that are reactive, which means we can infer that there were things that happened in the past. We even may have fragments of memories about it. But what's actually important is, oh, there's still something in me that is reacting to things as if it were then. I only have need to do one thing, and that is to love this to the point where it doesn't feel like it needs to react that way anymore. And that's all you have to do. Thank God we don't have to sort this whole thing out. Oh, could you imagine having to go through and sort out all the traumas and wounds and disasters and belief systems we've gone through in all of our lives in order to wake up? Oh, good God. I would rather be put out of existence. It's hard enough doing one life, right? You don't have to do any of them. You only have to deal with what's right here, right now. The feeling you have right now, the thought patterns that's now, the sensations that's it. Forget about analyzing or dredging up anything from the past. Whatever needs to come up will come up. Right now is the only thing you have to concern yourself with. Isn't that a relief? Savvy Stacker. Hi, GP. I've missed seeing you. Good to see you. Yeah, you haven't been here for a while. I haven't been taking roll, so you're not in trouble. All right, David says, great answer to Tabby. GP. Oh, thank you. Thank you, David. Well, I'm going to sit here and sip on my tea, even though I usually like it warmer. See if any more questions come up. It's only an hour and 12 minutes in. If there are any more things you'd like me to talk about, any more questions on anybody's mind, please like and share while you're at it, because it does help. Taby, do we need identities to play our characters in the drama of the world? Sure, it is relieving to listen to you. Oh, great. That means your heart is being touched. Wisdom speaks through you. All respect for you and the love you are. Bless your heart, Taby. Really. That's what I strive to be. I strive to know myself as love. And let that express itself in my human life as best, as much as this form can possibly do that. And it's interesting how that's just kind of deep and become just, nothing else matters as I've gotten older. And the other stuff has kind of fallen away, other kinds of aspirations. I realize that's all that matters. I think now more in terms of legacy and what I'm leaving behind. I'm thinking more about Om School, this place where my teachings are living, and where I am hoping in the not too distant future to teach people how to teach, to help, so that the legacy can be one of this love, because to me, it's all come down to that. This is not just a sentimental or love, which is part of the deal. It's romantic love as well. It is the love of family, the love of our children, the love of our work. It is this love that manifests itself in so many different ways, and that is the self, and that it is what will make everyone safe. It is what will alleviate the problems in the world. It is the value system that we should all be striving for. It is the fulfilling of the law. There's it is everything that everyone throughout all history has claimed it to be. And so for me, I claim it as my very identity. This is it. That's all there is to it. And it comes with wisdom and energy and fun and intimacy and humor and and expressiveness, and it has no limits. It has absolutely no limits. And it knows how to even deal with the unlovable, which is the most precious gift of all. But to your question, do we need identities to play our characters in the drama of this world? The answer is yes, we do. The beauty of that is that the whole human mechanism creates these identities instantaneously as they are needed. There's no need for us to have to do it. It just happens. You know, every question that I get asked invokes in me a different kind of energy. And sometimes I'll be very serious and very non-dual and very precise, right? And other times it'll be a story, right? These are different characters, right? The sense of identity as an identity is a concept we project on people. There's no fixed identity anywhere. Because we believe there is, we're trying to fix this person, right? Thinking it's a fixed identity that needs to be improved, right? There is no fixed identity. They're always coming and going. The ego is not a thing. It's just an idea. And so if you know that, then you kind of let yourself become whatever the moment requires you to become. So when you're talking to your 12-year-old daughter, you'll be very different than when you're talking to your husband, or maybe an older child that you have, or your people at work, or people at the temple, or you'll be so aware of who needs to be there in the moment. Now, this is not being a chameleon because you're not trying to get anything. This means you are being love, because love knows exactly what this moment needs to bring about the most loving and harmonious thing that could possibly happen given the circumstances as they are. And so there's this constant morphing of love into whatever it needs to appear to be at the time. And sometimes it's going to be really strong. It's going to appear as Kali, right? Or as the two-edged sword. Other times it's going to be just absolutely gentle. Other times it's going to be Venus, goddess of love and passion. It's going to be Pan. It can take any form and yet never lose any sense of its essential nature, which is what gives definition and wisdom to every identity we assume. As long as you just realize that it's just a costume, it's the actor on the stage. I'm playing a part right now. Or shall I say, I'm watching a part being played because I'm not even consciously doing it. You know, as you go, you're dealing with different people during the day. You're not going, oh, I'm going to deal with this person. I've got to become that, right? It just happens, right? There's an energy there. You feel it. You kind of know what you can say, what you can't say, how you should be in certain things. And of course, the most wonderful thing of all is when we're with those people who so love us that we just be ourselves. That is, whatever comes out in me in this moment, whatever is moving me in this moment, whoever I become in this moment is perfectly okay. And so you will, when there's a freedom from the ego, you find that life flows fluently and effortlessly between the different forms and energies and roles without ever getting stuck in any of them. And that's what this is all about. That's what the Tao is about. That's what the middle way is about. That's what it means to be no self in Buddhism. You are simply flowing. You're not anything in particular. You're not stuck anywhere as somebody. I'm not stuck in an identity. I am that which can take any identity. And therefore I am always the most available to the most loving thing that can happen in any given circumstance. And I'm totally available for it. Sometimes there's a lot of love that can come out in a moment. Sometimes there's none. It's just quiet and presence. And that's the case. That's the case. Love doesn't intrude. It doesn't force itself, right? If all I can do is just sit there and be love, that's what it'll do. And not say a word, not participate, not do anything. And that's the way it's got to be. and so love has an infinite range of both self-expression and self-restraint. Lovely. Oh, Tabby, thank you so much. I keep saying Toby. Sorry about that. David, thanks. Deep thanks and gratitude for your insightful pointings and wisdom, G. Oh, you guys are so welcome. I love you both so much. Mary, I'm feeling rather blah these days. Can't put my finger on it. It's like I have burnt myself out with reading and searching. Any suggestions? Well, stop reading and searching. Go to the gym. Use your body. Dance. Grab your husband and go do something fun. Or not. Right? Do it by yourself. But first off, don't let your mind turn the feeling of blah into a problem. It's not a problem. Mind's like, I can't put my finger on it. Why am I feeling so blah? Right? What happens then is it becomes a problem to solve. The mind gets, oh, I'm on it. Right? And it's just going to just research it to death. Instead, just kind of sit there and go, oh, there's a blah feeling going by. Look at that. Blah feeling. Hello, blah feeling. Yeah. If there's something you need to tell me, fine. If not, do what you need to do. Do your little dance, and then see you soon. Love you. And really, you can have that kind of disposition about it. So if there is something there that really needs your attention, needs to contribute to your awakening, it'll show itself. You just go, oh, okay. And in that space of love, where it's not a problem, it's just a feeling going through. In that space of love, if there's any other meaning there to that feeling that needs to express itself in order to release the feeling, it'll do it, because it's in an atmosphere of love where you have to. But the moment it's a problem to solve, there's not love there anymore, right? If somebody treats you like a problem that has to be solved, you don't respond very well. But if somebody just open-hearted is loving you, whatever condition you happen to be in, well, this is the space in which you go, yeah, you're right, I'm feeling this way, and it opens up, just like you're feeling right now. You have the safety here and that feeling of love that allows you to express that. And so love responds to you and says, don't worry about it. Be present with it, just like I am. And just be ready with that. Oh, there's a feeling of being blah. Oh, there's a headache. Oh, look at that. Ooh, there's a feeling of anxiety. Look at that. And the mind go, that's a problem. And go, no, it isn't. It's not a problem. There's nothing here for us to solve. There's only an opportunity for us to awaken even more deeply our love for life as it is. And let's see what the rescue dog has to say, if anything. It may just be a feeling passing by. It's got no meaning in it whatsoever, and it just by. And your mind will go, yeah, but what do I do? Nothing. Thank you very much. Don't need you right now. You just go, go play with a ball or something. Are you following that, Mary? We've gotten to the point where we're also, after the period of time where we were all trying to do the spiritual end run, I'm all perfect and there's nothing but love, and just trying to ignore your traumas and wounds. We've gone to the other side now. It's like every little feeling we have, what's the meaning of that? Oh my God. No, I got to process that. Oh, let me, it's like slow. Whoa. Slow down. Right? Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Sometimes it has no meaning whatsoever. Just stay here, stay present. The feeling, there's a feeling there. The mind says, I got to do something. No, you don't. The mind never has to figure anything out because the mind can't. It can only deal with what it already knows. So if there is something to be revealed, if there is something that is moving this energy up because there's something deeper that needs to be freed, well, then you let it happen. Right? But the only way it's going to feel okay to release, to be freed, is if it's sensing that the environment is loving and safe enough for it to do so. Otherwise, it'll remain hidden. The environment's not safe. It's I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out. Let the anxiety, let the mind chase that around for a while. I'm not coming out. Are you following this? Oh. Are you following this? Oh, thank you, GP. I think, okay, you got it. Sykes, I feel like that time too. For me, it seems to be a time, take a mental break and just be. Very good, Savvy. That's why they call you Savvy. Did you call me? What's a Siri? Siri is the voice on the iPhone, right? You know, you can ask it, it's the AI unit where you can ask it a question and it'll answer in a voice, right? That's all it is. It's a robotic voice. There's nobody there, right? And that's why I use it as that example. It's just a voice. There's no real being there that's speaking to you, even though it uses the word I. And if we understand that that's the nature of the ego, it's just thoughts in the head that use the word I, and there's nothing there. The ego becomes a non-entity, not something you have to fight with. And that's why I use that as an example. So that Siri is just the name Apple gave to their voice on the iPhone. But you can actually substitute that. You can put it in with different accents. You can have it have a male voice or a female voice. I have a female with an English accent. Yes, I'm finding that information for you now. Daniel, Speck, you remember the hippies? Speck, who's Speck? I guess. All right. I don't like to sit a long time. Do I have to force myself to do it? Nope. Says, did you call me, Katrina? No, you don't. As a matter of fact, at first, it's going to be almost impossible. So you don't want to force meditation as a practice. I got to sit for an hour. Please don't. Don't do that at all. Here's what I recommend. Instead, at various times during the day, just stop and take 3 deep, slow breaths. That's it. And go on with what you're doing. You might even want to do it in the morning, right? If you forget when you first get up, put a Post-it on your bathroom mirror. I have people that have put little Post-its on their front door before they go out. So they'll just stop before they go out. You put it on your dashboard of your car. So before you start to go somewhere, you just take a moment. It's a way of slowly learning how to bring our attention back to ourselves, which is self-honoring. It forms a pattern interrupt, it stops the flow, and you'll find that that's simple a couple of times. Whenever you think of it, just stop and 3 deep breaths will change the whole character of your day. And you will find an authority begins to emerge. And that 3 breaths will become 5, which will become 10. And suddenly you realize that you have the capacity to be present with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. And this is cultivated over time. It is not something that happens right away. It's also why I do guided meditations, because a lot of times people can't do this for themselves. They have to have something occupying. So it'll be some music and my voice, and I'll be speaking softly and more slowly, right, to kind of slow things down. And it helps kind of retrain your nervous system to be able to allow itself to drop out of its normal pace, right? So don't force yourself to do it, because boy, that's so unpleasant, isn't it? I got to meditate now. I got to don't do that, right? Maybe you'll find something you can start with the breaths. Just start with those breaths at various times during the day. Just interject them. Then you might find some meditation, just some meditation music. on YouTube or Spotify or one of those things. You can just sit for a moment as you breathe, right? And little by little, this is a very gentle, and the beauty is it doesn't take that long because the nervous system wants to get into a state of calm and relaxation. I'm actually working on a whole meditation program to start very, very simply and take you all the way up to more advanced states. But the advanced states aren't even all that important, because what's really important is that we begin to have a kind of a change in the relationship we have with ourselves, right? So that what gets cultivated is a more loving, respectful attitude towards yourself. So you'll begin to honor your own preferences. You'll know what you like, and you'll be able to say yes to it. You'll be able to ask for what you want and be able to receive it. You'll be able to say yes when you mean yes, and no when you mean no. The way I approach it, the big glorious enlightenment, don't worry about that. Worry about, how can I be more present to myself in this moment? And I still do it. I find myself getting in the car. Oh yeah, right, stop. Before I start the car, just 3 times. At various times. Sometimes when I'll be out eating a meal and I'll just stop for a second. Yeah, people around. I just don't have to close my eyes and chant Om, right? Do in the lotus position, sitting in my booth in the restaurant. None of that's necessary. Can you just feel it's just a very respectful, loving thing to do? I really want to just have more peace and calm in my life. So this is how I'm going to do it. Very good. Hopefully that helps. Welcome. I will say I've had to learn to give myself permission to let go and be. Yep. We all do. It's easier with practice. Give myself permission to let go. Yes, you give yourself permission to let go, and then you have to recognize that your nervous system doesn't want to. And this is where the rubber, you've all given yourself permission to let go. You'd let go in a heartbeat. Why don't you? Well, it's not you. It means that there's a momentum in the whole nervous system that's zooming along. So now you've got to take this, it is my desire to let go. I've got this momentum going. So how can I intervene gently and lovingly so that I can make this letting go a fact of my life and not just an aspiration? This is what we have to recognize, that our realization and the manifestation that we experience as our human life are not in sync yet, right? So you say, I haven't let go, right? I need to learn how to let go. But what you're identifying with is the nervous system, which has no interest in letting go. Mistaking that for you, you end up denying the actual experience that you've had, the realization of your inner aspiration for freedom, and the realization of it in your life. And what that has cost you is identification with the realization and faith. That identification says now, I've got to now take this love, and I've got to love the rescue dog back into a state of health. Right? There's nobody here who has not already let go. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't. What we don't understand is the letting go that happens in the heart and in our awakened mind has to make its way down into the rest of the system, which is still operating on from the unconscious instinctual patterns that it received in lifetime after lifetime and in our own childhood, and also the natural instinctive patterns of every animal on the planet, of which the human body is one. And so the higher consciousness that's awakening within you is lovingly going back and redeeming the rest of this, bringing it in line with it, which will then allow it to increasingly manifest as your actual human life. the realizations that have already been taking place. This is the post-awakening sadhana. And I don't know a single teacher who hasn't gone through it or isn't still going through it. Not a one. Ramana, some I've heard of. I've heard of some. Buddha. Buddha finally said, yes, I have transcended all suffering, all conditioning. Yep. I've not heard anybody say that since. Sarah, hello, Sarah. Question, best way to support my 10-year-old daughter who is accessing clairvoyant ability in a disruptive way. 3 weeks of disturbing, perverted voice now. Ah, okay. Well, first off, let's not put the term on it of the clairvoyant ability. I'm not saying it isn't. I just don't want to focus it because it seems to me at this point, there's also emotional stuff going on. There's reactive. She's 11. She's 10 years old, right? She's just entering into adolescence, which is confusing enough. And so now she's got this other stuff. So first off, we honor it. Say, yep, okay. You're gifted. You're very special. You're loved, really loved. This is a power for you, but it's not an easy one. And it's going to require some training. It's going to require some patience. And it's also going to require some wisdom to not let everybody know about it. I'll tell you 2 stories. The first story is about Black Elk. There's a great book called Black Elk Speaks. And Black Elk was a Sioux shaman. At 9 years old, he had this kind of experience, intense, psychotic event. We would call it a psychotic event. We pump him full of drugs, send him off to an institution, give him a label, and medicate him for the rest of his life. Because they have a much more advanced culture when it came to spiritual things, they called the shaman saw the young boy, the 9-year-old boy, and knew exactly what was happening to him because it's what happened to him. And he took the boy off, not plant medicine, that comes later. I mean, they did use that, but not during this. This was something that they were guided through by the elder shamans, in which he came to terms with it. And it was just for days. He was kind of like, but he finally had a vision. And the vision was, he saw the whole future of his tribe. He saw what was going to happen. He saw the hoop of the nations, which is, again, the magic, the circle, which appears over and over again in mythology. And he finally had the vision, the mystical vision, where he said, I stood at the center of the universe, and the center of the universe was Harney Peak in North Dakota. But, he said, the center of the universe is everywhere. That's a mystical vision. When I was about the same age, we were playing flashcards, flashcards and kids for arithmetic. So I was like 3rd grade, maybe. And so you compete with the other kids in the class. So whoever gets the answer first, they show the flash. Whoever gets the answer first, the other one has to sit down until you get around the whole room. I used to go around the room. But anyway, this one time, I remember it vividly. She was pulling out the cards, and I kept getting. And after a while, I was saying the answer before she even pulled the card out. It was just appear in my mind. I still to this day remember the panicked look on her face when she saw it. When she realized I was saying the name and she hadn't even shown the card, there was this panic. Well, this is the Midwest, right? Very Christian, very, right? And suddenly there's this kid with devil powers, right? So she made me sit down, right? She didn't know what to do. It was so painful to me. I had no idea what had happened. I was this, I was winning. Why should I have to sit down? I'm winning, right? I could still see her face. I could just still see the fear in her face. So that's why I say the wisdom to be cautious, right? Young Black Elk had an environment that knew what was happening to him. I didn't. Right? And right now your daughter doesn't. So you have to be that for her. Say, let's do this together. Okay, they're horrible voices, right? There's a lot of fear there. So, oh, I wish I could sit with her. So just be with the voices together, right? Just hold her and say, okay, what are they saying? All right, let's just let them say it. Just repeat what they're saying. I don't care how grotesque it might be or how perverted. I don't care. Just repeat what they're saying. Let's just be there with it together, right? Because you know what will happen? Eventually, that voice will exhaust itself and other voices will begin to appear. Right? The gargoyle will disappear, and little by little, more angelic stuff is going to begin to appear. Right? There's layers to this. And bless her heart. What's her name? What's her name? If you can give me her name, Sarah, then I would love to. Yeah, that's what I would say to do. First off, it's not a problem, right? Don't you are going to have to tell her, look, people are not going to understand this, right? So don't share it with anybody right yet. We'll find people that you'll be able to share this with, and there are people out there. Matt Kahn, I mean, specializes in helping empathics and people like this. There are ways, but first, just let this ugly voice speak, right? Don't be intimidated by it. It's just a voice, right? That something inside is opening up, and that voice will exhaust it. Will exhaust itself. So I noticed before you're practicing meditating, earthing, affirmation, EFT, and the like. And that's great, right? Remember, don't entertain the idea that it's something you have to get rid of. When you practice the affirmations, when EFT, so I always caution people, because I use EFT and I use it a lot, that its purpose is to calm the nervous system, to make it feel safe. It's not to fix anything or get rid of anything. It's to help create the inner environment where these energies can play themselves out. And you feel safe enough to let them play themselves out. Nothing can hurt you. Nothing can hurt her, right? We are afraid of them. We think they can, but they can't. They're nothing compared to what you are. They need you. And once these channels begin to clear, right? And you could even think of it as these ugly voices are kind of clearing away rocks and stuff, like, the dust and the noise that that the people working on the roads or something make, and the smelly stuff and the like. And eventually you've got this smooth road there. That's what's happening if you know it. Certainly don't let the school system or anything like that know about it, because they'll think she's crazy and they'll want to put her on medication. So, be really discreet about this. And so everything you use, meditation and tapping and anything you use, walking, make sure you drinks a lot of water, uses her body to help move this stuff through. Employ a what they would call in Ayurvedic a sattvic nutritional program. I'm going to put you in touch with Lisa, my partner at Home School, who's a nutritionist, for those kinds of things that are really very calming and grounding for the nervous system. It sounds like she needs some of that. But anyway, we're going to do everything we can to support her as this plays itself out, because I want her to realize her power and her potential for good and healing on the other side. Does that help you, Sarah? And don't worry about raising your vibration. She's already has a raised vibration, or this wouldn't be happening. Don't worry about that. Your vibrations are already good. I can feel it. Right? So again, you can see I want to raise my vibration. There's a sense of fear in trying to get it to go away. You don't have to. There's a power here. And when power first appears, it can feel quite intimidating. But don't worry. Don't worry. Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Savvy, exactly. GP, nail on the head. What was I nailing before? Do many meditations when I think to do so throughout the day. more disciplined when it comes to tapping than I am with meditation. Well, that's fine. I find it easier to do mini meditation. Perfect. Perfect. And that's what your body, nervous system, mind needs. So, Sarah, where'd you go? Are you still there, Sarah? Sarah, yes, GP, thank you so much. I was given the insight on clairvoyance for Willow, my son and I too. Oh, Willow, what a beautiful name. What a perfect name. I could just see the wind, the willow tree, which just dances in the wind, moving. I'm reminded of what Christ said. He said that the wind, the tree bends where the wind blows, but you can't see where it's coming from and where it's going. It's like that the people born of the Spirit are. You can't see the Spirit that's moving them, right? And so she just needs to get used to the dance, the motion of it, and just be in equilibrium. Oh, so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Willow, love it. My son and I too. Yes, good. Oh, my own cause of greeting, and the voices began the day after. Good for all of you. Stay very close on this so that you're supportive of each other. Fantastic. I homeschool. You're an angel. I appreciate everything. You homeschool. Excellent. That's really good. That's not, I don't believe in anything to the exclusion of anything else. So I say homeschool is the only way. It isn't the only way. I mean, my granddaughter was in a Montessori school. She's now in the public school. It's working very perfectly. The different kinds of experiences that she's having. But in your case right now, I'm very glad she's being homeschooled. Beautiful. Yeah, because she needs the support, but she'll get strong very clear. If you follow what I've been saying here, she'll get strong very soon. She'll have the confidence and the wisdom as to know when she can share it and where not. And you'll also find others who are in the same boat and also needing guidance. And you'll also acquire the wisdom, because there's a lot of people out there who say, "Oh, we can teach you," and programs and that sort of stuff, and they really don't know what they're doing. So take your time. There are people, like I said, Matt Kahn is somebody I like, and his whole focus is on empaths and people with these kinds of things, and bring him to a place of strength. So there is, you're not alone in this. And I have to say that more and more children are exuding this kind of thing. They used to call them they had a name for them. There was some kind of name. It was a purple or violet kids, or I don't know. It's not important. But there is a growth in consciousness that's happening, and kids are becoming much more sensitive to things. It's part of the evolution of consciousness. Adults are too. That's why forms like this even exist. So it's the expansion of consciousness, which is always going to look different than the environment of the world around us. But it is inevitable. Oh, the things that are going to be happening. We are on the verge of the greatest transformation in the history of the universe. And I just want to stick around long enough to see it. Hopefully it happens within the next 20 years or so. I see it. I mean, the energy's building. Any moment now, it's like tectonic plates. Almost any moment there's going to be the earthquake. Yes, GP, that's the issue. Oops, sorry. The nervous system keeps pulling me away. It's so frustrating. It's only frustrating to the nervous system, Mary. It's not frustrating. Do you think God is frustrated with you? Do you think the truth is going, oh, I lost touch with the truth? Do you think love is going, where's my love? Where's my love? Notice, that is the nervous system that says it's frustrating. Frustrating. It's always the ego that's frustrating, because it's trying to get something from it. The moment you let go of that, there's nothing for me to get from it. I'm it. That will really sink in. You'll naturally kind of see every aberration like frustration or anger or confusion as, oh, the equilibrium of the egoic mind has been upset. It's unstable. Great. That's the plan. This is what I've been working for. This is what enlightenment is. So I'm just going to let it destabilize, knowing fully well my nervous system, being the beautiful adaptive thing that it is, will reorganize itself, only it'll be on a plane that's closer to who I really am. So I'm not quick to have people get out of the experience of these upheavals and the turmoil to get into this place of bliss. It's too soon. You want these. You need to be the master of this inner territory. And that comes by every single thing that comes up. And they will all come up. Every bad intent, every fear, every wounded past, every addiction and attachment, they'll all be there. And you go, oh. You look on them all with this most incredible open-hearted love. Well, that's who I was then, and all I needed was love. So let me give it now. All you need is love. Tabi, GP, questions dissolved in this moment, which has expanded into the universe, humble and grateful. Oh, so beautiful. And what a light you are for the world you happen to be in. What a relief. Thank you, says DJ Coleman. Isn't it? Isn't it? Ah, it is a relief. You know, there was a time in my spiritual growth, I really wanted to be responsible. I wanted to be a good spiritual person, and I disciplined myself. I would run myself through the ring until I finally realized I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to deprive myself. I didn't have to do any of that. That love was so infinitely gentle that I could just kind of let go into it as much as I could in any given moment. And then the next moment I could let go a little bit more. And then the next moment I could let go. And little by little, things like inner reconciliation showed up, how to heal through emotion, how to be aware of my own clairvoyance, or whatever you want to call it, that channel of wisdom that's available to everybody so that it can speak through. Little by little, it just all revealed itself. I thought I had to do it. I thought I had to turn myself into spiritual guy. I tried. Oh my God, what a mess I made. But I can say with humility that it made it possible for me to be an actual teacher. If I'd actually become who I thought I was supposed to be, oh God, I would be an ass. But instead, I'm just a bozo like everybody else who's fucked up more than you can possibly imagine. And it's that which really empowers one to just so embrace their humanity that nothing bothers you anymore. Right? Yes, when I see the incredible cruelty and inequality and prejudice and going on in the world, it breaks my heart. But I get it. I understand it. So it's a relief for all of us. I'm leading the relief charge. Questions dissolved. Remember who you are. You're not your thoughts, your feelings, your self-image, or your circumstances. I remind myself throughout the day. Yeah, and then take that one step further and say, and I love those thoughts. I love the feelings. I love those images. I am pure love, witnessing the thoughts, the feelings, the self-image, the circumstances. And it is my prayer and my deepest desire to look upon them all through these eyes of the perfect love. That is my only aspiration. And suddenly, even the thoughts will not be a problem. The feelings, the sensations, the self-image, none of it will be a problem. None of it will be a limitation. You'll find that none of those are actually limiting. Only the idea that I had that somehow they were a problem is what's limited me. They're not a problem. They're the functioning of life, nothing more. Eon, how come I can't be completely full-blown? I can be completely full-blown enlightened for half a week, then I'm trapped in the mind again, despite knowing it's all a simulated story. A second question, despite going through 2.5 levels of IR over a year of constantly feeling and trying my best to allow everything, I still can't reconcile with the one thing that matters. And that is, I just want to be myself and around others, but I've never been able to. It feels perpetually dangerous and like I've been choked out and it never loosens up. I truly want to die if nothing changes. I personally know that feeling. Let's try to slow this down, my friend. And let's start with the last part of it. I'd rather die than live with this. Now, I see that as what has awakened in you is such an overwhelming desire for real freedom. That's what drove you going through all the levels of inner reconciliation. That's what motivated you to go through that, to learn those things, to embody those things, to practice the allowing, because you want that freedom. And it, as of yet, has felt elusive. Yet at the same time, you said a full-blown enlightenment for half a week, and then I'm trapped in the mind again. And so once this begins to awaken, it means your heart has opened. That's what the desire for freedom is, right? Nobody would say, I'll die if I can't get that, unless the tolerance for the impositions of the smallness of that sense of self-image or the egoic mind is just not tolerable anymore. At this point, we might want to try to double down on our practices and all of that. And I say, no, step back, take a step back. Let's start with the most important part, and that is an overwhelming, irresistible, and undeniable desire for freedom, for real freedom. And a desire to find that love that is completely unmoved and imperturbed, no matter what happens, including experiencing complete awakening, unity, oneness with the universe, the heights, right? And then apparently losing it. Could I even be so open-hearted and loving that doesn't even bother me? And now you'll be in touch with what's really driving this whole thing with you. Right? That beatific vision of the ultimate that we would call enlightenment. In one system, you can refer to that as the opening of the 6th chakra, which actually beholds God. Right? The opening of the 7th chakra is when you are one with that. When beholding God, even that dissolves and you are that. But that's what we're on. Now that's already true. You are already that. And it is that truth of you, that love, which is forcing everything else to the surface. It's what opened. It's that love in you that opened to the experience of seeing itself as that love. And it's that is pushing to the surface all of the resistance, all of the pain, all of the wounds, all of your highest aspirations. All of that is being elevated, purified, and healed, not just for you, but for the whole world, because the spiritual path and the healing path are one. You cannot separate them. So it is the beatific vision. It is God herself, love itself, that is making this happen. As Rumi puts it, I've quoted this a million times, the power that brought me here must bring me home. And that power is this power of this infinite love, which is also truth, which is also wisdom, which is also intelligence. And that is the true self that wants to be the self, wants to be myself with everyone you are with. And now, if you recognize that that which inhibits you from doing that is, one, not really realizing that that is who you are, which you're cultivating, and I can see you're already covering that ground. The other one is recognizing that that feeling of it being dangerous to be around others is the traumatized nervous system that experienced it being dangerous to be around others early on in life, to the point where it became an assumption that this is the way life is always going to be. And so takes what in fact is a temporary state, but it doesn't know it's a temporary state, assumes it's a permanent state, and puts into operation everything it needs to keep you safe in that state, which means shutting down with new people, maybe being shy, suddenly not knowing what to say, not feeling as if your view on things or your opinion or your presence is wanted. And just assuming that that's the case, so that the feelings will be there, the behaviors will be there, and the thoughts will be there, even if you're in an environment that's actually quite accepting to you. It won't be able to see it. Now, if you recognize that, and you can take this love, take the enlightenment you've already touched. You can't unring that bell. Don't worry, it's still there. And you bring that with love to this part of you that is just trying to protect you. And rather than trying to get rid of it, right? I want to overcome this, right? Instead go, oh, I need to love this to the point where it doesn't feel it's unsafe any longer to express itself. The human energy system, the nervous system, the body, the mind, the emotions, sensations, memories, all of this, its purpose is to give expression to who you really are. That's what it's here for. Now, it can't do that unless you're safe. And in the beginning, if you've had a traumatized upbringing, which pretty much everyone has, that it wasn't safe enough for that to happen, because when it did express itself fully, you got hurt, maybe abused, or worse, right? And in past lives, you might even have been killed, right? Put to death for something that was the natural expression of yourself. So this deep energy says, I cannot allow myself to be seen. Right. Now, it was that imminent sense of real mortal danger that put it into that state. The only thing that will bring it out of it is love. It's got to become so safe that it senses that, well, maybe I can. Maybe it is okay. Maybe I can put a little of me out. And if you, the conscious presence that's aware of this, that is awake, right, can allow that to happen, even if nobody else sees it. Oh, I love that part about me, right? Suddenly it begins to open up. The whole thing begins to open up. And then something will go out. The environment won't be hostile towards it. You'll be able to express it. And little by little, the defenses come down. And as that happens, the energy that's now stuck in defense begins to move more and more into self-expression. And that's where you discover that capacity to just sit down in a room full of strangers and have a conversation. And not only just freely, but wisely, to be able to read them, to sense them, to see what can I say and what can't I say. But then it's not an inhibition. You're not in danger. You're wise. I don't swim with sharks, period. It's They're not going to be loving towards me, right? But I'll be in a room, some people you can really relate to, and you know it. Other people you can't, and that's okay too. That's part of the protective mechanism when it's actually free to be authentically integrating or interacting with the environment, rather than assuming it's always dangerous. So it always comes back to love. That experience you had of the full enlightenment. I remember the times, there were numerous times where that happened. And every time when it would slip away, it would be miserable for a while. What did I do? And I go back, try to recreate it. It was a while before I realized, wait, that's not the point. Because even that, for all its incredible wonderfulness, was just another experience. Wow. Even that? Yeah, even that. In Tozan's Ranks, which is a very little-known Buddhist teaching, he puts that great enlightenment, what you experienced, as step 3 of 5. And the next one was being pushed down the mountain, like you were. Till finally you arrive at the actual, right? This is the desire for many spiritual practices. I want to attain that high state, and that's it. That's the arhat. That's it. I'm here. The bodhisattva is no. That's just the beginning. Now I want to alleviate all suffering, and that's back down the mountain. The return of the hero after the ordeal, back to ordinary human life in a total embrace, where I am now embracing myself as the ordinary human being, and in there I find the ultimate freedom and the ultimate love and the ultimate release from everything. And at the same time, I find the most intimate interaction and celebration of all beings. I find God everywhere. Is this helping you, Ian? Please tell me, because I so know what's happening with you. Please come back. Oh, good God. The list is, I can't answer all of these today. Let me sort through here. I just had to touch on that one. Ian, David, you said the realization and manifestation are not in sync. That's what I mistakenly believe church would do. Carrot and stick. You do good. You do good, God will reward. You are good. You can't help it. We bring heaven down to earth, and that's the reconciliation, bringing that love which is God, which is not rewarding you by giving you good circumstances. It is discovering that you are that love that we call God, and you as that love bring that love, right, that you were, and it does the manifesting. In the churchy view, there's God, there's my life, doing things right, he rewards with my life. In this case, I become one with God, and I manifest that in life by the redemption of all human life and return it to its native state as the manifestation of the divine. Tabby, any exercise you suggest for chakra balancing and increasing vibrations of our chakras? Well, I'm going to see an aura of oneself. How can one see an aura of? Well, first up, let go of that wanting to see auras, any of the special privileges and things that can happen. The pursuit of the powers are just a manifestation. They're not important. Some people get them, some people don't. Some people get these extraordinary abilities to do things and manipulate matter and stuff like that. Most don't. It's much more pedestrian than that. So let go of that. You don't need to do that. Right? The first chakra is all about safety. That's what it is. We feel it at the base of the spine, but it's not just the base of the spine. All of this, everything you touch, feel, see, every bit that we call matter is the first chakra. It is just the vibrational frequency of the full frequency of the full frequency range of being as form. That's all. That's what it is. You want to know the first chakra? Look around. Look in the mirror. Look at your car. Look at the cup that I'm holding. Look at the pot of plants behind me, and the like. That's the first chakra. The body is the first chakra. And the magic ingredient that releases the first chakra from its role of protector into its role of expressor is safety. When it's safe to express, it will. So as you can tell, everything I talk about is about conveying this sense of safety to the nervous system, which is the first chakra. There's a depth that I call it the energy system or overall body. It doesn't matter what you call it, right? Those are just concepts. There's an underlying energy, obviously, that gives rise to all of this. And so as we then do the exercises, you said you're using EFT. Use EFT to convey to your body safety, because that's what it does. I've got a video just called Presence Tapping. It's free. It's on YouTube. I do a bunch of stuff with EFT. I do a bunch of courses with the EFT as well that I use, because I use it a lot because it does that. There's a lot of explanation as to why it works and like it, various chemicals it releases into the body. I don't care about any of that. What I know is that for some reason, touching these spots tells the body it's safe, and it takes it in. It bypasses the mind. The mind can be saying, no, there's danger everywhere, but the body's detecting that even if there is danger, there's safety here. New information takes it in. It's really, really that simple. And you see all the places that are touched by tapping, people naturally touch them. You get surprised, right? Or you're thinking, right? Or something like this, or these are all, the body does it naturally. So you're just using the natural functioning of the body to consciously bring yourself to a state of safety and relaxation. Deep breathing will also do it. Hugging does it. Hugging has that effect. So I recommend lots of EFT, lots of deep breathing, and lots of hugging. I love hugging. Snuggling, ooh, even better. Under the blanket with popcorn and Netflix or something. Snuggle. It tells the body it's okay. We're safe. Incredibly therapeutic, and your daughter's going to need a lot of that. So the body is safe to process the unusual information that's coming through her. So, let's see here. Only way out is through. Amen. Premonition a lot when I was young in my teens. Freaked me and everyone else out. Yeah, it has that effect, doesn't it? I get it. The lid is off the jar. It's all coming up. Yes, very good. What a beautiful few hours. Thank you, GP. Love you. Love you too. Non-duality. Beatles, GP. Curious of a good playlist of all the gems from the 60s and 70s. No, I don't really. If I put something in a playlist, I never play it again. I just let myself run across stuff. I went through a little Beatles kick recently. I was listening to some stuff, and I like some of these reaction shows, kind of listening to some old stuff, rediscovering medieval music. I love medieval music with genuine instruments. I just discovered this one little band that does it. Yeah, my music has just wandered all over the place. There's no rhyme or reason to it anymore, which is very, very funny. My therapist called me humble, and I said, she doesn't really know me. That's the mind that said that. You didn't. Oh, be so careful with that. I thought to myself, she doesn't really know me, does she? Right? That's a thought. There's no I there. That's Siri. There's no mind there. You're not there. You are the witnessing consciousness that just saw your mind try to deny what was obvious to somebody else, not to just anybody else, but your therapist who's trained at observing and also trained at saying, at knowing when to tell somebody what's true. So yeah, and notice how your heart wants to take that in. It wants to because it's true. Ive G. Hi there, Ive. Hand pink waving. Thank you for this live. You're welcome. Thank you for a beautiful example of getting past yourself. I love you, GP. Oh, you're so welcome. Oh, my therapist believes in non-duality. Funny, the universe works on your behalf, gives you what you need. Before you know, you will need it later. Yes. In fact, the reason it knows what you need is because you're it and it's you. Our desires are actually fulfilled already, and it is the first appearing of its manifestation is what we call desire. Whatever you desire has already existed. It always existed and is now being called by love into manifestation. And we feel that as a desire. We personalize that desire and think it's my desire. No, it's not. It's a cosmic event. Every desire, every thought, every feeling isn't personal. It is the feelings, thoughts, aspirations of the universe itself. Everything is a cosmic event because there's no person. Ava, thank you for tea today. Oh, you're so welcome. Oh, you're in Cordoba, Spain this time. It's got a better life. Ian says, it's exactly as you say so far. The only time I've ever felt safe and loved in my entire life are these moments of awakening. Yes, that's why they're so precious. But those moments of awakening are you awakening, and those moments will do the work. They will colonize the rest of the system. You just need a little bit more of understanding and a little guidance to help stabilize you there, so that you don't feel overwhelmed by it or feel like it's your personal responsibility, but to stay close to that love that is bringing it about in you, transforming you into itself. Right. So please come back, Ian. Yeah, please come back, because it's a time where you need some guidance. IG, exactly. Shutting down, terrified of speaking. I don't even know how to love half the time. Oh, that's only because your mind thinks it knows what love is. You know what love is. Otherwise, you wouldn't know you know how to love. You know instinctively. You just need the opportunity to let it begin to come out and take form in your life. And it's the stuff that's been shut down that has kept that from happening. So that's what we redeem. And then that love begins to express itself. The only thing I have is fear and pain and restriction. And that's the nervous system. But the more you stay with the love and appreciate that, do I just keep giving the feelings my full attention as best I can? There's so much activity, I can't even drop my stories. Everything is so noisy and psychotic. Give them the feeling, but drop the expectation. I'm giving my feelings until they go away. I'm not trying to get them to go away. I'm trying to make you so goddamn strong that it doesn't matter to you that they're there. At which point, they become your servant. Right? They begin to serve you. I want you strong, not just excluded from bad experiences, from difficult experiences. That's what I want for you. And you do that by you are giving them attention, but here's what I also want you to do. Yeah, the feelings are there, the restriction, everything. I want you to give equal time to your desires. So, well, okay, I feel very restricted. What do I want to feel like? And you'll find at the beginning, it's not easy to do. There's so much resistance, you can't even picture it. And so recognize, oh, this has shut down my desires, my heart, my bliss, my interests. It shut it all down because it was dangerous. All right, I get it. Thank you for protecting me, but it's not dangerous for me to just think about it, to want it. So I'm going to give it equal time. I'm going to give my heart's desire some equal time. I'm going to give this side of me, the side that desires that freedom, that desires the awakening and everything that's included in it, right? As my life, I'm going to give that equal time. And you'll find there'll be a lot of resistance to that, but eventually it'll subside the more you give this attention. So now you're not just trying to get rid of these, right? You recognize them for what they are and you allow them to be there. But that's so the other aspects of you have some chance to come out. Now, when you do that, what might happen is you get very attached to all these, and there'll be this energy of trying to make this other stuff be quiet. Be the peacemaker. It's the one in the middle who acknowledges that the safety mechanism has to be there, but also has to be the natural human drive towards freedom, towards expansion, growth, fun, love, intimacy, success, all these other aspects that are part of the human constellation. But you don't take sides. You go, oh yeah, this is all part of me, and now I'm just allowing all the parts to be here. And you remain as that pure, loving witness of it all. But now you're beginning to direct what's happening in the inner world. And you'll see a shift, right? That space will begin to open up, and that awakening will begin to become much more concrete. Not just the explosion that happens all too infrequently, but something that just begins to transform the environment in which it's already appeared, which means it's already in there, my friend. It's already in. It ain't going anywhere, right? It's just landed now, and it's putting out the feelers, and it's like, okay, where are we going to take over first? You're in good hands, my dear, in good hands. Love to us all from Angel Love. Savvy, GP, I have to voice my gratitude. Your approach to EFT is transforming. I feel a shift happening with me. Transformation is happening. Such a joyful experience. Thank you. Spent years, used many modalities without success. I used to get this place I was seeking that I found through your EFT videos and teachings. Wow. Well, that makes me feel okay. It's worth it. I guess it's okay that I do this instead of being a rock star. Of course, at this point, I'd be an old rock star trying to see if I could organize a comeback tour. This is much better. Yes, that was my ambition when I was young, and then I thought I'd be a composer. Just setting hearts free. There's nothing like it. Did I answer it for you, Ian? Yeah, trying to accept. Yeah, you can't just love and accept everything, right? Well, you can accept. Here, the problem is you're not loving accepting everything. You're loving accepting all the difficult stuff. I also want you to accept the aspirations, the glow, the desires, the kind of life you'd like to have, the dream side of us. Right? That's part of the equation too. The spirituality isn't all about just tolerating these horrible things. It's awakening our aspiration. The only aspiration you've allowed yourself is full enlightenment, right? How about a healthy relationship? How about a job you love? How about people around you that care about you? How about nice clothes? How about the little things that we want to dismiss? Oh, it's not the enlightenment. They're things that come and go, right? But they're also part of the picture, and it's how enlightenment unfolds itself in one's life. A deep love and appreciation of human life as the manifestation of the enlightened mind. And the enlightened mind is not personal. It is the enlightened mind that drove your experience of enlightenment and is in the driver's seat. And that's all you have to it's in the driver's seat. So I just accept everything about me. The tiniest little desire is also God, right? I thought I was supposed to get rid of all desire and be spiritual. No, it's the loving of desire without attachment to the outcome. Simple as that. Okay. I didn't even know about non-duality yet. So how did I manifest it? Because non-duality is your nature. You don't have to know about it. It's what you are. It's like, do you have to know about love? Did you have to get a check the first time you fell in love? Did you have to get a little checklist? You just knew. It's like, yeah, of course, this is it. For all of IR, I've been imagining getting a wonderful girlfriend and lifestyle. I felt that in you, my friend. So I want you to to really cherish that. Yeah, damn straight you want that. Good. Now let yourself want that, but also don't make it like it's a personal responsibility. Treat it as if, oh, wow, this is the desire of my human part. There's the part wants to be enlightened. And there's this other part that, man, I just want somebody to hold at night. I want a little fun. I want a little part of that side. And notice as you give that attention, it develops, it becomes purified, it becomes really innocent and beautiful. And little by little, you'll find all the stuff that's resisting it will begin to start supporting it. The dance begins to happen. This is the reconciliation that I talk about through that whole thing. Oh, God. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. And the feeling of being loved and accepted and being free. Yes, that is what we all want. And we want it in its manifestation. That is, people around us who love us, accept us as we are, allow us to be home. Home, heaven, intimacy, the place where I can just be myself. And be myself with somebody else, which is part of the human deal. That's why there are genders, by the way. That's not an accident. Yes, that's the desire to, yes, so that you can be free. That's the whole desire behind enlightenment. And so what you're experiencing now is an enlightenment of the heart, which is very different than the enlightenment of the mind, which you experienced. That opened the door and rang the bell. Simplest answer ever. Yes, a lot of resistance. Don't worry about it. Don't make it that important. Do what I say. Cherish your desires. Let them grow. And when the resistance to the desires there, say, thank you very much. I know. I only want a safe way to have these. It hasn't been safe before. And so the way you've been acting is completely rational. You say that to the safety mechanism inside of you. Right? Can we work together to find a safe way? Is it even possible? Because I can't let these wants go. Can't. They're part of me, just like you. So we're all got to work together. We got to reconcile this, guys. And on that note, I am going to have to bring it all to a close. What a wonderful time. Thank you for all of that. And here I was at 1 hour and 5 minutes thinking there weren't going to be any more questions. So, I love you all. Bless you for your much needed words, truth and humor. But love and light, dear friend. Thank you, Angel Love. Thank you. And thanks to all of you. You just don't know what it does to my heart to watch people wake up to who they really are. And not just getting it in their heads, but also in your hearts. Because who you really are is that infinite wisdom. It is the enlightenment is already what you are. It's already what's here. You wouldn't even have a desire for it if it wasn't already present. It's timeless. It's not something you acquire. It's what you actually are. But the nature of enlightenment is love. It is an explosion of the heart. And that's what Ian felt in that. It wasn't just expanding in the mind. It was freedom, total freedom, acceptance. Now that simply needs to move south into the rest of you. It's what we're all craving. It's what this journey is about. And we are all together in this. We are a Sangha. We are all on this path together, supporting each other. None of us here is alone. No matter whether this is your first step on the path or you've been at it for 50 years. We are all in this together. So, all my love to all of you. And see you in 2 weeks.